Hello, everyone, wherever you are. My name is Daniel Breston, and I'll facilitate this session on DevOps coaching, the mindset driving cultural change. I have three amazing individuals with me today, and we're going to discuss all kinds of stuff. So, Sundaresh, if you could start by introducing yourself and why you're in DevOps and the mindset is important to you, and then pass the ball to the next one, please.
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. Um, 7 years ago or 8 years ago, I was working for a team. We were doing a lot of manual things, and then there were a lot of complaints from our customers. Hey, you guys are so expensive. And then we look back, what is happening really? And that's when we found like, okay, there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time they waste on them and handoffs, and we do a lot of things manually. How about when we automate these things, right? So we started automating our build processes and deploy processes, and I started to learn about DevOps and got fascinated about it a lot. And yeah, that's how I got into DevOps. Akhil or Dimitri?
Akil, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who have joined us. It's very interesting. It's 2012 when India, and first time in Bangalore, we had a DevOps day. And somehow I became part of it. And it intrigued me that how can we can change the whole process of working. And it is because just before that, I was working for one client and we were trying to deploy a piece of software which we were working for last 9 months. And it took literally 2 months for us to figure it out how exactly we can put together in the production systems of our client. It was very tiring for my entire team. And when I attended the DevOps day in Bangalore, it provided me sort of relief that there is a different method that we can apply to not go through that particular pain once again. The second was when we started working together with a new method in 2013 with the same client, I was able to get the deployment done with a very cohesive force, and we all came together. And there was a reason for us to conflict, but not to blame each other, but the conflict to find out the new ways to create the new ways of deploying the system, deploying the new piece of features into the production systems of our client, and gave us the amazing results. And therefore, that made me to incline towards DevOps.
Thank you, Akil. Dimitri.
Well, interesting. With similar experience with Akhilesh. To me, DevOps is a logical extension of, first of all, the basic thought of teamwork, and more specifically of Agile, right? Where we've been working in Agile, typically in Agile project delivery, in development. We're now taking it all the way and have the value stream to the user. Previously, we still had this divide. We were delivering something, but not really learning if what we were delivering was actually being used. And with my background in supply chain management and manufacturing, flow of goods, to me, having been in a team-based working and team improvement, building higher performing teams for a long time, it's a totally logical extension that we follow the total flow of work, the flow of value. We all know we do it, whether it is in automotive, everybody knows Toyota, or whether it is in telephones, right? It doesn't really matter. In supply chain, it's very normal. However, we're building a product as well, although it's not tangible, but the basics are the same. And that's what really attracts me to DevOps, and also for me, a logical extension of what I do.
Thank you very much. We're also joined today by Coco, who manages just about everything that happens within the DevOps Agile Skills Association. So thank you, Coco. And if you could go to the next slide, please. We will be sharing all of this sometime later in the week. So look for some mention of this by Coco or us to let you know that it's ready. But gentlemen, and starting with Akil, please. Last week, we discussed the requisites to reach high performance. What happens in today's world if a team is not high performance or an organization is not high performance? What will they see?
Very interesting.
Good question.
Very, very good question. And a typical work, and I'm not going to name the client. And we found that why the teams were not high performing. With my example, working with one of the American client, we created the productivity measures, and the productivity are really, really a falsehood into this. Right? There's nothing called a productivity measures. This is only that how well we are learning about the process. How are we learning about how we are working with each other? And that's the one thing which we set together. And that when you put together the measures, which is empty team, which is not supporting the team to come together, the individuals who can come together, that's not going to create the high performance. So there are measures which is the empty team, which is puts people into the spot, kind of blaming each other. So that's the second thing which we found that in the particular organizations. Now, the other third thing we found that we all have the visual boards, and there we are putting together something is red, something is yellow, and something is green, right? If you start putting that kind of signals for the teams, what happens? You are not creating the motivation, as I was talking about the last week. We are not creating the oxytocin. Probably we are creating the reverse kind of a measure for that. When you put together red, yellow, and the green kind of things, which we have done in the the hierarchical model of delivery, the command and control. There we have red, yellow, and green, and how exactly you are going to command, how are you going to control about it. Interestingly, some time back, I was reading an article on HBR, and when I was looking at the trap of the performance measures, it talked about, Andrew talked about when we start measuring against yourself. Oh, this week you have done so much of work. How come you're not able to do this work? When you start going backward, rather than looking at that what you have done, allow the failure, allow to learn from the failures. You start looking backward, and therefore it takes away the psychological safety of the team. The other thing which he talked about, another trap which he talked about when you're doing this is that you put too much faith in your numbers rather than putting faith in your people, the team which is working, the faith in the capabilities of the people rather than putting the faith in the number. Oh, this number. And these things, if you start doing it, it will take you against the high performing team. I will just ask Dimitri and Sundaresh to add on to it.
Dimitri, do you want to
go ahead? No, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so great point, Akhil. Just to add on what Akhil mentioned, right? I've seen in my experience in some companies, they focus on some metrics. I mean, what is high performance to them, right? What is high performance to them? Okay, I mean, let's get some metrics around how many lines of codes that we're producing, how many function points are we creating, right? So while these kind of metrics could have been valuable in the past, but this builds an heroic mentality amongst individual coders within teams. That's not DevOps, right? DevOps is all about, fostering a culture for team collaboration and ensuring that, as a team, you're able to deliver successfully and continuously, right? So I would say when you look at high performance, it's about what adds value to your business goals, right? So that's what I would look for as a metric to ensure that they are aligned with our overall business goals, rather than looking at metrics such as how many lines of codes that you have built and how many failures that we had. Interestingly, right? Yeah, while it's improved, it's good to or it's important to improve upon your overall mean time to failure and all that. But I've also seen what it means to their team. Some teams or some companies, they look at metrics like how many number of, how many failures that I've had in the last week or last month. And put a ratio, against total number of FTEs on the team, right? So, again, I just want to say that these could have been helpful in the past, but if you look at a DevOps transformation, it beats the purpose of the DevOps cultural mindset itself, right? So that's what I want to say. And Dimitri, do you want to add anything to this?
Dimitri, I want to throw you a curveball.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm the CEO of an organization. My performance is not that bad actually right now. We're not too bad out of COVID. Why do I care about DevOps? DevOps is just another IT thing.
That's an interesting one. Can you tell me in the current market where you can deliver, whether it's physical services, healthcare, or whether it is physical products, without the associated IT infrastructure, without the associated information flow in high speed? You cannot send around messages with DOFs anymore. You'll be too late. You'll be outperformed in the market. Yeah. Then the next thing is value to your organization happens when there is the good old economic transaction. I provide a good or a service and you give me money. That's when the transfer of value between entities happens. When are you as a consumer, and the consumer still holds the biggest buying power in the world, going to give me money? When you've received value from what I've given to you. Now, we want to do that in a continuous way, a continuous flow and use of value from the perspective of the customer. Doing that without IT in today's market, you'll be a laggard very soon, low hanging in your performance, right? Yet I want to get back to your question on when not having high performing teams, right? Well, I read somewhere somebody saying that people are an organization's #1 asset. I don't think people are an asset. Neither are they a human resource, like a machine resource. I believe people are the #1 energy, #1 source of creativity, #1 capability of problem solving. Unlike computers who are good at what? Crunching numbers and doing repetitive tasks. Now, when your people are your #1 energy, you do want to be attractive to the top talent in the market. You want the top talent from universities or even from whatever their experience is, whether they work in a bakery, right? You want your top talent pâtissier to join your restaurant. And that's why you want a high-performing team, because people are social animals.
Okay. Go to the next slide, please. Coco? Oh, there you go. So, Sundaresh, I'm still the CEO. I'm not convinced. What behavior or culture or mindset then are you guys asking me to put into my organization? Because I still think this is nonsense.
Let me ask you. So what do you? What's in your mind? Do you think that DevOps is all about IT?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so interesting. I mean, you're not the only one, right? I mean, I've spoken to many people in the industry. So what is DevOps? And yeah, DevOps is all about, I mean, buy some new cloud softwares from the, I mean, market and do modern solution delivery or service delivery. So that's what I mean. DevOps is all about. People think that way, right? But again, I mean, if you look at a transformation, I mean, needs a technology process or a cultural change or I mean, you have to look into it holistically. It's not just technology, you implement new technology and then walk away. It doesn't work that way, right? I mean, I said this in the last webinar as well, but I mean, a transformation, I mean, it's more to technology, it's it's tech plus, and also it's more about building highly collaborative teams that can help you deliver softwares in a continuous fashion, right? So this requires a lot of mindsets within the team and also with the organization. That includes collaboration and having a common goal with a collective purpose. And again, I mean, we can have tools and process change, but it's important to understand what a business value you are adding, right? What business value you're adding, and how you increase your overall organization agility. So that would help your overall organization purpose.
Okay,
So
thank you. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now I was saying that, I mean, so to just add one more. So you look at them in various ways of improving upon yourself, like delivering in small batches and reducing waste and all that. So it's not just technology, and there's more to it.
So, Dimitri, that sounds interesting. So I'll fund a program of change, and what, 18 months? If I just tell everybody go do DevOps, then that'll get us to the behavior, culture, and mindset we need, right?
Yeah. Okay. No.
No.
Transformation as a program is one of the traps that we see. What we need to do is start building a learning organization where failure leads to inquiry, where success is celebrated, where we figure out how it come we were successful, or how it come we failed. So no, transformation is not a program, it is a continuous thing. If we really go back to the base of DevOps, we are going to talk about lean. And then maybe for some it takes time to sink in, but actually lean is really about continuous improvement and respect for people.
Mm.
All the rest is supplementary to that. Now, another of these failures, traps, so that's where the shift comes, is one size fits all. It doesn't. Teams that work on internal systems are different from teams that work on customer-facing, customer journey systems. Finance and HR on one side, for example, versus buying platforms, right? Shopping platforms. Totally different things that happen. You know, are you going to do A/B testing with your finance and HR? Really? You can just as well talk to them. Where A/B testing is a capability that you will need in the other side when you're much more customer facing. Top-down mandates, you know, not really the best way to go. Yeah, it is the people who have to say, we want this. That's a motivation from outside versus the internal motivation. So you will want, what do you want to do? You should be working on outcome-based team structures. That's why you need them close to the market. That's why you need very few layers in your hierarchy. Actually, I think you should have an upside down hierarchy where we have the customer on the top, the teams that are transforming ideas and thoughts into products and services and value, and below a supporting, facilitating leadership. You need to know your value stream. You need to know your cycle time. You need to start small and grow. No big bangs. It doesn't work. Create lighthouse areas where you want to show how it can be done, and people will start to follow, right? You should have data-driven actions. Maybe we can talk about metrics and stuff also, but data-driven actions and decisions on stuff, and not this gut feel only. Gut feel is good, but only gut feel is not good. And then work is work. Whether I spend my time that I can only spend once on a webinar, or on helping a PO, or on working on technical debt, right? Or on creating a new user experience, it is still work. And we need to see how, as a value to the customer, we prioritize that. And we get that to flow to the customer, because only then it has value.
Let me ask
Akil
to, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We should experiment. And maybe we can talk about the 6 principles of DASA DevOps principles. Maybe an idea for Sundaresh, to speak about the 6 principles. I have them here on the wall, so everybody always sees them, right?
Yeah.
Sundaresh, you want to do it?
Yeah, Akil has been quiet for some time, so just want to give Akil an opportunity to talk about it.
Akil, Dimitri and Sundaresh are implying that I, as a CEO or my senior leadership team, also have to change our behavior and culture. Is that right? Is that true?
A very interesting question. So let me put together this, and this example of my own. I was working in one of the Southeast Asia country with one of the organization. The problem was the leadership team, and especially this CEO of this organization who was taking care of that country. They worked very hard and put together the strategy that they have to transform their IT. Right, very carefully planned that how exactly the transformation should work. I mean, not the transformation, the program, the IT change program should work. They also put together how they are going to measure the progress and things like that. Guess what? What happened? It spectacularly failed. It was in a big trouble. Now then I was working and I was called for. So then we went to and find out why that happened. And we came out with one particular word called surrogation. What is the surrogation? Is that people have a behavioral tendency. They have a behavioral tendency to confuse what's being measured with the matrix being used. So what they did, since you have fixed it, that this is how the program should go about, the people out there, they have surrogated it, they confused you how exactly this is going to be measured. Yeah. Therefore, what, as you rightly said, that we need to change the behavior of our own, the culture of our own. What we did differently after the first failure is that reduce the risk of surrogation. Make sure the people becomes a part of your executing a strategy or executing this particular program from their failure of the learning, and they decide what particular measure they are going to put together. Let them formulate that how exactly they wanted to take this forward and what would be the incentive for that. Yeah. Therefore, the first behavioral change required is that, are you allowing your people to lead this through, or you are trying to put together the measures and the metrics and the progress towards this particular program? Yeah. And we saw that when people owned it, when the people who are on the ground, they owned it, you require to change a lot of behavioral things at the leadership level. because they were thinking that I don't have anything to do out here, right? You have to shift your view from, as what I talked in the 90s, 60s, 70s about servant leadership quality, right? So the behavior which was against that particular measure, when they start working on to, we saw the second instinct of this particular program, which called as now the transformation journey, became successful. So you do not own the matrix. Let the people own the matrix. Let them design what exactly they want to implement. You set the vision. Therefore, that's a behavioral change that you require to have at a leadership level. Daniel.
Let me add here that if you want your people to drive this, you need to give them a voice. They're adults. You need to respect them. You need to treat them as individuals and listen carefully. Actually, I think it's a leadership's role to have the organization, to have the individuals in the organization to grow, not to do more, but to be more. That actually is your role. And for that, you need to be an engaging leader. You need to be visible. You need to provide a strong narrative of where we're going.
Yeah. Just to add with what you said, just one liner. When you look at the transformation journey, it's not about the change, it's about social psychology, right? The social psychology, the individual will behave very differently inside his house or in the private life of his, versus when he comes to the organization, he will demonstrate a very different behaviors, because that's a very different kind of a dynamics in which he has to play. So when the leaders have to also understand what are the social behaviors, the social construct that they need to demonstrate, so that they can create the similar kind of a role models with the people. So the command and control is also passed on from the higher leaders to the it percolates downwards, and therefore we also become completely the same kind of constructs we have, because we want to follow that leaders, right? So the behavioral change is required so that it will socially, it will percolate across the teams to do differently and work differently. So the one particular servant leader would be able to create the multiple servant leaders. Is just to add that, Dimi, to your point.
Yeah, no, it's totally correct.
I'm going to take us through the metrics of high performance, and you can continue the discussion from there. So, Coco. But high level organizationally, then, there's lots of metrics on here. How do I make use of them as a senior leader? How do I know that we're going toward high performance? Who wants to start? Sundresh, take us off, please.
Yep, great. Metric is one of my favorites, right? I mean, especially when it comes to building softwares, metrics is one of my favorites, especially on focusing on the stability and the speed. So what is important for business, right? For us or for businesses to stay up and alive and compete with their competitors in the market, the speed and stability is very important, right? So some of the metrics, right, which is very in line with the overall DevOps philosophy, the deployment frequency, how frequent you deploy into your production systems or deliver value to your customers, right? And how long does it take for you to make any changes into your production systems, a lead time for changes, and from a stability aspect, right? What is your change failure rates? And what is the total time to restore your service if something goes down? So how long will my customer will have to wait in order to use any service that we provide as a company? So those are some of the key metrics which would, which I think is very important from a software speed and stability perspective.
Yeah. So Naresh, that's a delivery thing. Now, the question that comes up in my mind, and I think it's also here, how can we predict that these metrics will have great scores, right? And I think it is all around the people that work on them. Their empowerment to choose the tools and their way of working that fits for them. If we have only backend developers, what's going to happen to the front end, right? So that's a diversity from the perspective of skill set. But actually, it should be personality differences as well, because diversity typically also has a great benefit when we look at dysfunctions of teams. Lencioni, right? We'll pick one. Let's say that we have all conflict avoiders. Not really the best, right? For team performance. Yeah.
Yep.
How about leadership that is not empowering? They may have their ego. Hey, they have their ego in the way that they know it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we can continue like that. But I think it's not so much where people from an individual perspective are important. It is not so much the individuals on the team. I'm convinced it's their collaboration, their relationship, their dynamics, how they work together that sets a prediction for their performance. Are they willing to go beyond for each other? Right? Even though I may be an iOS developer, I will do backend stuff as well, including the weekend, if need be, because we're on 24/7. We're in DevOps. We build it, we run it. So what is our behavior towards each other and our effectiveness in that, our versatility as members of a team? And how much? Now let's look at the current situation. Sundaresh, you're in Boston, right?
Yes.
Akhil, in India.
I'm in
the Netherlands. Nowadays, everybody is distributed and not co-located anymore, which previously was the way to go, right? Because also that way managers could do an easy go see on the floor. Now, many of us work from home. We're going to do another webinar just on remote work, distributed work in the next weeks. Coco will announce that, right? But there, you're working from home. How about work-life integration? The kids, previously I heard a dog barking, right? You know, you may have to step out for a quarrel that the kids are having because maybe your partner, your wife is not around. You know, so that balance also, you know, how can you unplug? How do we allow people to unplug? Do we want to control them and see them every day in the video all day? Well, that has as Akhil, you know, social understanding how intimacy between people typically work, you know, with 60 centimeters around us, you know, you get into my intimate space, but how does that relate to watching the video or looking up somebody's nose because the camera is low? Right? Work-life balance. Yeah, I see work-life integration. To me, it's the work-life balance. You know, I have one life in my life, not two, one. That's one Demi. I work and I do not work. Yeah. Akhil, anything on the results, vision, action, performance one?
Yeah, very interesting, Dimitri. You know, I was last week I got a new engagement with one of the organizations to do a team coaching at a higher level, the senior guys of that particular organization. And the whole discussion was about results, the results that matters. And very interestingly, the last year when we did a research and we found that the focus of the team, like they were looking for the results of what will happen when you do a team coaching of this particular group of the 7 people, what results it will produce. So it was talking about, this is what the vision we have, this is what the actions we wanted, this is the vision we have, we please tell us what actions we'll take, and this particular vision, what kind of performance that we need to show over the period of time, right? But the reverse is true. We don't get incentives for engagements. We get incentives for results.
The results.
Right? So the leaders who all are, like the whole of the companies, and I went on to multiple companies, it's 80-20 rules. We focus 80% time onto the results and 20% times on the engagement, but it should be reverse. 20% time on the results and the 80% time on the engagements. Right? And then you will see the result will come through. Right? The DevOps journey is all about humanistic approach to software development. Right? Yeah. Of course, you require to have a balance. Of course, you require to have how exactly we are going to make sure that we are succeeding through that engagement. You require to have results. Right? As you said, that economics. Right? But then, can you drive that engagements? And then Daniel Pink, which is put together a beautiful called drive. So if you want to drive the results, you need to have the engagements, right? And these metrics becomes very important. Very interestingly, in the same organizations, we have 2 different teams to coach. And what I found that in the one team we have 7 gentlemen, and in one time we have a mix, 3 ladies and 3 gentlemen, and also 1 or 2 members from the LGBT group. Yeah, amazing difference how exactly their performance are looked at. Amazing difference between these 7 people. And I'm not going to go into the details. There is a risk that we can go on the hours together to why that is happening. What are those happenings? Critically, then another thing which we looked at is one of our clients from Germany. They have put together in one team where you have people from Germany, from the other part of the Europe, and also from the India, plus also some other part of the Southeast Asia. Cultural differences, if that you sort it out, the diversity, the ideas and the thing which comes in very different. Yeah. And wisdom of the crowd, I would say a wisdom of the diversity.
Yeah.
Creates that. So we do not focus just because we are so much involved into results that we don't look at for the diversity. Do not look at for how exactly even the guy who is at remote he has a dissenting voice, is that being heard? Is that being heard? So there are different diversities that we can talk about and make sure that that's taken care of. And other things I think Dimitri have already spoken. So that's my view on to these matrices.
In the words of Jonathan Smart, better value, sooner, safer, happier. So yeah, we want to deliver faster, safer, but it's more of building happier teams as well.
Yeah, people will want to need to be there to do it, to be engaged and not withheld. And on one of my engagements in the past days, we were talking about teams and cross-functional teams and everything around teams. However, the people that should provide the leadership, they're not acting like a team. There's not only the teams that are, let's say, performing the work, it also, as a leader, you're not alone. You're also part of a team. Don't forget, you're not somewhere at the top of the Eiffel Tower, or of a mountain. You're not some god in heaven. Actually, you totally depend on these teams. And your behavior, how you relate to the people that you work with, and show team behavior, that gets replicated down. And if you don't, it takes that to break the sense of respect, of trust. And that's the core thing. But then how do we measure trust?
Yep. That's probably a discussion that we could have that would last an entire day or a week, month.
A lifetime.
Yeah. Coco? Next slide, please.
Daniel, do you have any questions coming in from attendees? I'd love to hear questions.
I was just getting ready to say we're on the last part of this, and we are hopeful that we will get to questions. So if you do have questions, please put them into the question or chat box. I will reach out to you guys and look at them. The presentation will be available later this week. And ticket culture. Tickets are good for managers as an evidence of work and order and metrics, but they create barriers between people. How do you overcome it? Because I'm a senior leader. I'm just going to look at the number of tickets that people are doing. So if one team's doing a lot of tickets and the other team's not doing a lot of tickets, that's where the bonus is going to go. Is that good, DevOps?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
There. When there is 10 banknotes on the floor with different numbers on them, which one do you pick up?
The one that I think I can walk out of the bank with and not anybody stop me.
Yeah,
or the
so
highest
it's highest possible value, lowest possible effort and risk, right?
Yep.
So does the number of tickets really count? Really? Or is it the value that these tickets represent? Is it the value to the customer that we need now that they represent? So that's a conversation to be had. Why are we looking at these tickets? What is it that this leader is getting from that? Why is it that he looks at them? Maybe somebody else who's asking him or her for analysis on the number of tickets within a time, right? So yes, they may represent flow, but it depends on the quality of the substance of the ticket. So you need to have a conversation about why this is important information, and then discover. It's similar to how can we increase the team's velocity? Well, that's easy. Ask everybody to double the estimate. And comparing teams, well, they have a velocity of 20. They have a velocity of 55. Okay, cool. You know, this animal weighs 100 tons. This only weighs 10 kilo. Okay, that may be a small dog, and that may be a big whale. I don't know. You know, it's comparing stuff that is incomparable. So it's all about understanding what it is, why people are looking at it, where they come from. It may be their own situation, and that's a coaching question. As we see here, the DevOps coach is really for a DevOps coach to help reveal and figure out what drives this behavior and make people aware of their behavior and the effects of their behavior, positive or negative.
So Sundaresh,
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Sundaresh,
sorry.
Yep. When you coach as a DevOps coach, okay,
Yep.
you go into organizations and more than likely they have one of the 42 flavors of Agile, and the operations people are working with one of the 3 main service management frameworks.
Sure.
And now you want to do this DevOpsy thing. How do you blend them? How do you move the organization together? As a coach, how do you incorporate everything that's involved in DevOps to get people to be high performance?
Good question. So one of the things what I look for is to ensure that everybody in the organization share a common goal, right? So that is very important, us as a coach, to ensure that the team that you're working on, the organization that you're working on, share the same common goal, right? So I would start with the goal first. I mean, before getting into any of those, frameworks, that you had called out. Akhil or Dimitri, do you want to add there? And then I'll come back.
I just wanted to take this discussion little of recent, which I'm working with one of the clients I'm coaching. You know, when we go typically to do a DevOps programs, and when you do a coaching, our tendency focus on the KPIs, key performance indicators for particular organizations using the software development. But when it extends to customer, they talked about NPS, Net Promoter Scores. But as a DASA DevOps, we always talk about customer-centric actions. When you say customer-centric actions, then we call it as a CPI. Customer Performance Indicators, right? When you're saying that you are a customer-centric, how could that be true? How that could be true? So what are you measuring? How is your customer doing in terms of their revenue, in terms of their growth, in terms of maximizing the value which they are receiving from you? Not that how much they have referred, but how are they are typically doing, right? So it takes a while for leaders to understand, how do I measure the CPI? How do I count for the CPI? And therefore, I felt that because their mindset is always stuck into the KPIs. And the recent part, it has gone into the NPS. But they don't really understand, how do you measure my customer success? Right? Because end of the day, I'm measured for the KPIs, right? There are a number of organizations who all are becoming customer-centric, adopting, measuring, and optimizing the CPIs, customer performance indicators. Customers are the only one that has to be built into the mind of the people, that the customers are the only one, as you said that, Dimitri, the consumers are the only one who makes your organization success or the failed, right? Just consider an example from an insurance industry. When a customer buys an insurance policy from online, what is that we are providing? What kind of information you are providing? How are you adding to the value to that particular customer? What is the key performance, customer performance indicator? Somebody is buying the insurance policies from you. What are you going to do? How do you ensure that the values of buying that particular insurance is coming out? Therefore, he will recommend that there are 5 friends who will go and buy that insurance. Yeah. So we can go and talk about the CPIs. More importantly, my focus from last few, whenever we start the DevOps engagement, we have to work on the CPIs. And then the CPIs integrates to the NPS, and then NPS integrates to the KPIs. Yeah, make some sense?
Yeah. The first question, Akhilesh, is who's the customer? If you cannot tell me who is the customer, then, you know, who is the customer that this work is for? And if that requires 5 other teams to do something before the customer has value, we need to strongly think about cross-functional autonomy capability, but also our product setup, right? That's a key thing. And then back to your question, Daniel, you know, how that? There's another aspect, which is knowledge. Does the group who is working on driving this change has insufficient knowledge or too different knowledge? You know, you basically, your communication there, you're going to misunderstand each other. Lost in translation. It's like speaking different languages. It gets lost in translation. So there is a role which is around teaching. We do need to teach. We do need to ask people to read a book. And when you're on a team, you all read the same book, such you have a common ground. That you better understand each other. You don't have to agree with each other. Please disagree with each other, because only out of disagreement we get ahead. You know, as long as we do it openly, constructively, and with respect for each other. So we need to start to understand each side of the table, whether it is one of the service management frameworks that is being used versus DevOps. You know, they need to start to understand each other to get together. And if they don't understand each other, they're not going to get together.
Dimitri, I want to help organizations do, as Sundaresh was saying from the great Jonathan Smart, better value, sooner, safer, happier. I want to learn how to become a DevOps coach. Is it possible to learn how to become a DevOps coach? Is that doable?
When Akil and I teach the class, Akil, what do? It is about this, and it's very much about that. You know, you took our class, you know, it is very much. So learn is one thing with a head. It's like playing baseball. It's many years ago, I read a book, The Knowledge Creating Organization by Mr. Nonake and co. That are also at the forefront of DevOps, long days, like the 90s. Yeah, I'm old bastard. You know. And it's very interesting there. One thing is, they were giving the example of, in Japan, baseball is a big game, like in the US, right? To learn the rules from the book, and I say, I know I can play baseball, right? And learn with the body how to swing. You can't learn how to swing the bat out of a book. It's two different things. The same thing is in this role. It is something that you need to practice. Not only learn, but do. Be involved. In your opening question, I was tempted to say that you, as a CEO of that organization, your first skill would be to start listening. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth, to listen twice as much as we speak.
Just to
Sundaresh,
add,
go ahead.
Just to add a point, I'm sorry for that. To what Dimi said, we call it as the 3 H principles of becoming a DevOps coach. Yes, you have to have a certain conceptual understanding, which is head. Then you have to come down from head to the heart, that experience the humanistic approach of being with the people and what are the challenges they are going through. As Dimitri talked about, speaking less, seeing more, hearing more from your eyes. Yeah, and then in action. So you need to practice. So you have to be in actions. You use your hands, you practice it, become hands-on. And once you use the head, heart, and the hand, you become a DevOps coach. And the whole program is around this. We go through the construct of the theories, how exactly you can sink in, how do you take this up, and then how do you practice those particular things which you have taken to your heart in the field. Yeah, Daniel, sorry I took your time.
No, that's fine. That's great.
Daniel, that you need to practice with individuals, and maybe more importantly, and Akil and I are going to come with team coaching with teams. It's different to do an individual coaching there at different levels of their being versus a team. Totally different dynamics.
Sundaresh, go back in time before you were a DevOps coach.
Yep.
Now you're a DevOps coach. You're in the DevOps movement. You're a voice in the DevOps movement. People follow you and listen to you. What changed? What was the
Um,
biggest change? I'm going to ask each of you, what changed? What was the biggest change? And you have 1 minute.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it was all about delivery before to me. It was all about delivery. Yeah, get things done, and yeah, it doesn't matter. If I spend 15 hours in a day, or 18 hours in a day, or like 60 hours in a week or something, and I expect the same thing from my teams too. Okay, I put 60 hours in to get this project shipped, and how about you guys? And I expect the same thing, right? So that create conflicts and all that, but I don't care. But I just want to get these things done. But now, with being in the DevOps movements for more than 8 years now. I value teams a lot, human relationship a lot, and focus on shipping smaller chunks rather than looking into an overall big bang approach at the end when the customer will have to wait for something to deliver for a year or so. Now I'm able to deliver something, I coach people to deliver something sooner, which the customer can already see some value, right? So those are some of the great improvements, personally, and also with the teams that I work with. Uh, they are happy about it.
Okay. Dimitri, you have almost as much gray hair as I do. Maybe not.
Yeah. In 1 minute.
What changed?
What changed? I'm not sure if it is changed. It is also something that falls in place, where you feel you. And this is around mindset. I've been a sports coach. I've always enjoyed see people grow, outperform themselves, surprise themselves, have fun together. And I've done that in sales organizations. I've done that in marketing organizations, in IT. This is, and for me, it's where my original education in supply chain management around flow of goods comes together with the flow of value and energy of people.
Yeah.
Akhil, I took the DevOps coach course with you and Dimitri. You were very passionate about being a DevOps coach.
Yeah.
Why?
I have been also in the management roles for decades together, a couple of decades. And one thing which we talk about in our program is potential is equal to performance minus interferences. So that belief has become very stronger. Why? Because it's not that only few people can perform at that level. Only the few companies can become the top-notch companies. Each and every organization, each and every team, or each and every individual has the potential to get to the right kind of performance, what they're expecting. Only thing is, we as a coaches, can we take out the interferences, which comes from the 4 dimensions? The organizational dimensions of the interferences, the cultural dimensions of the interferences, the process interferences, or not using the right kind of tools, technical debts that which is getting created in the process, or it is already there interfering into our performance, right? So if you take out the whole of the interferences which is coming in a way, then you will be performing what the potential of that particular organization has. Yeah, and that intrigued me. That intrigued me. And I say because I went through a master coach program with one of the masters who learned from the ICA founder. He said, we are all born master coaches, Daniel, if you remember, that's what we said. We are all born master coaches. Only thing is, remove the interferences. Remove the interferences. And it just looks so awesome. When the people start showing about different energy, the different kind of values which they start creating to the other human being, maybe the customer, maybe they're different stakeholders. And that's where my gratification happens. That's where I feel myself fulfilled.
Yeah, that's
Thank
why
you
we
very
found
much.
each other.
Thank you very much for that. We're out of time. Thank you, Coco, for helping us with this. Much appreciated. Sundaresh, Dimitri, Akil, I know everybody can find you on LinkedIn if they want to ask you more questions. Everyone have a nice day. And again, this will be shared later in the week. Look for the recording. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Take care, everybody.
Daniel.
Bye,
Thank you,
folks.
Daniel.